Welcome. This is Map Marketing and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. I'm incredibly thankful that we now live in a world where pursuing a life where you can support yourself with your art and creativity is now a completely viable idea. When my mum was young and she was a potter, it was the time of co-ops and you felt like you were on the edges of real life. When I was younger, it was still very much seen as a side gig thing and you had to be pretty sure of yourself to really commit to it, and you still might be a little bit on the fringes. I think you do still need to really believe in the importance of allowing your creative and artistic life space if you're going to succeed to make it a career. And it is still a hard slog, but that's not enough. While in some ways it's never been easier to get your name and work in front of your audience, in other ways there's so much marketing and brand building to do, as well as all that boring businessy stuff. One of the things I love about our guest today, Greg Straight, is he's managed to build a business that mixes his fine art passion with his work in the commercial space and the accessible, this means lower cost prints, art space. Greg could be described as an illustrator, artist, graphic designer, but in recent years he's grown to become one of New Zealand's most prolific illustrators, carving out a niche, generating custom illustrations for high-profile brands who want to stand out. Greg's work is all around us. You've probably seen some of it. He's had nationwide campaigns for household brands, and you'll find his designs on tote bags, reusable coffee cups, I've got one in my kitchen, drink labels, billboards, and magazine covers, to name a few. His distinctive and versatile style has become in demand by a number of iconic Kiwi brands and international clients. Enjoy this episode learning more about Greg and how to thrive more as a creative business owner. Hello and welcome to episode 61 of Map It Marketing. I'm your host, Rachel Klaver, and thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first show, please be sure to go and check out some of our previous episodes, and also make sure that you come and be part of our Facebook group, Map It Marketing, where you can come and ask any questions. The link to that is in the show notes. I'm really excited about today's guest because he's an artist. And I love artists. And before we jump into introducing you to him, I would like to encourage you also to check out in the show notes my new book, Be a Spider, Build a Web, all about how to create a sticky content marketing strategy for your small business. It's a book that I have absolutely poured everything into. I'm feeling very vulnerable about people reading it, just in case you all hate it, but I'm pretty sure you won't. So have a little look and listen, and it does come with a free workbook to help you walk through the stuff we teach. Right, with no more ado, I'd love to introduce you today's guest, Greg Straight. He is an incredible artist. He has a real focus on a commercial side where you can see, you probably will have seen his products. I have a coffee cup of his in my kitchen, and he's a great example of how you can have a creative side and run a business that supports it. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here and have a chat to you this morning.
I'm really looking forward to it. Now, before we start, do you want to give, because I gave a proper intro in the intro bit, like you haven't even heard the intro, but I gave a proper one there. But do you want to just give a bit of a background about, you know, who you are and where you came from? Because like you went to art school, right?
I did, yeah, a long time ago. Did a Bachelor of Fine Arts at Elam, the Auckland University, and then did a little bit of training for graphic design. Well, my father was a graphic designer. I always thought that I wouldn't go into graphic design. I wanted to be a painter, but I went into graphic design, and then, I think it's like 22, 23 years of graphic design, but the last maybe like 8 years more making artwork and commercial illustration. So the illustration is quite different to the design work. So less of the branding, sort of corporate sort of stuff, and then more kind of drawing commercial illustrations for different clients in New Zealand and overseas, really. So it's been quite a lot going on the last little while.
So one of the things that I think you and a lot of other successful artists today have in common is you do end up creating a kind of a portfolio career. It's all creative, but some of it is fine art, some of it's kind of that accessible art, and some of it's commercial art. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So I think it was a the day job I had for 7 years, we had Chloe, our daughter, was sort of something I took, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it paid the bills, and it wasn't really sort of, I thought I was sort of going nowhere, so I decided to create some artwork and started drawing when she was asleep, and just kind of just trying to do something more creative for me, like a personal project. And I sort of created some art prints. I sold them to some friends. I kind of worked out how to frame them. Then there was a couple of galleries that were interested, and just sort of like grew from there sort of organically. But I think I had to just do something for me that wasn't the commercial work, for the client-based work, because then you're kind of just doing just what you want to do. It's a personal project. It's your own sort of journey. And I felt like that was just something I needed to kind of create a bit of a spark or energy or enthusiasm back towards art and fine art, really.
And I think that creatives will really understand that, because I think most of us, in whatever creative space we're in, realize that that creativity, that gift, actually helps us create a whole lot of other sensible work, doesn't it? Like, and if you don't have it makes it harder to do that other stuff.
Yeah, well, it's sort of been quite good, because we've got two different sort of income streams. So one's the kind of commercial art, so commercial illustration, then there's the fine art sort of stuff. So they're both, they're both enjoyable, but the stuff that you're doing for yourself is always the more fun kind of stuff. But I think it's good to have both, because I realize there's only so many hours in a day. You can do client work, you can work all evening, you can work weekends, but once you stop working, the income stops coming in. But if you can have like a product that you're proud of, that you enjoy making, then you could sell that. So you can maybe sell some artwork while you're asleep, and it can be something you sell overseas and stuff like that. So I think having both incomes has been really good for us.
So a question on that, like, obviously when you've got commercial work coming in, they're often quite specific about the brief, or do you get to talk to them or massage that brief a bit?
Not really.
It's normally quite specific, right?
Yeah, it is, with the time frames and what they're kind of after. I mean, sometimes they see some artwork that they like, and they're like, oh, can you do something in that style? Or we love what the great clients, the ones go, we like what you do, just do your thing. And but then there's other ones where, and some of the smaller budget ones, there's like, oh, can we have this and this and this, and then we change it and be like that. And so you end up sometimes watering down a great, where you started with, to something that you're not maybe 100% happy with. But I always try and make everything, do the best I can, meet the deadline, make it look, as amazing within the time frame. But sometimes it's the clients that like the art, and they want you to be you doing you. And I think that's the best kind of client, really.
I think you've literally spoken to every single copywriter, musician, artist, video person, everyone. Like, I've gone through that as a writer too.
Yeah.
Where that when you can just be who you are, that's when you're the best work that you can give them. But they want to fit you. They go, I love you and I love what you do, but can you fit into this square little box of what I need you to do? And it stops being your magic as much. Like, you can still do a really good job.
Yes, yeah.
But it doesn't have that delight.
Yes. And that sort of collaboration with Blunt. I
was going to ask you about that. Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was a really good one, because they just sort of came to me and they sort of emailed me and said, would you be interested in doing a collaboration? And of course, I love Blunt, and I love the sort of artists they do collaborations with, and it just felt like a good fit. But I found it a bit challenging at first, because a lot of my work is very sort of geometric and hard-edged, but I realized that
like it's a circle, right?
It's a circle. And then also just the logistics of like getting it cut and registering it and all meeting up. So I kind of took a bit more of an organic approach to it, and it's sort of inspired by the ocean, and hand drew and hand painted it. Went to the local beach and found shapes and drew stuff down there. And so the idea was like looking through a rock pool of like standing there looking at the sort of the shells and the seaweed and the fish within that sort of. And so it kind of sort of worked. I thought water, rain from the sky, and it kind of had that. And I'm really, I really love surfing and being by the beach, and a lot of my stuff has beach references. So it seemed like a good thing. And and they really liked what I did, and there were really kind of like no changes apart from some color changes. And then the product came, and we did a little video, and it's like a really nice thing to have, and it's one of my most favorite projects to work on, which is different to some of the other clients I've kind of, people I've worked with. But I think as you get more established and your career goes on, you often can sniff out those ones that you can sense trouble. And, but then also if you haven't got that much going on, it's easy to go, I'll just take that one. But you kind of know that it might be a bit of a headache.
Yeah. And that's something you've had to do. I mean, that is something that is a bit of I think one of the things that you have in common with a lot of other artists or creatives in general, and it's something I've also done in terms of my writing, is you do have to have, as an artist, it's all well and good to have this purity of mission and this purity of focus and vision of this is my art and it's precious and it's amazing. But then there's this pragmatic side of I just have to pay the freaking bills. And sometimes to get to this place where you're free enough in this artistic space, there's a pragmatic side too, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, years ago, I used to always think about the word being commercial art, or, commercial music was sort of like, stuff on the radio you'd hear that you really didn't like. I liked alternative music and punk rock and stuff. So that was what I didn't want to be commercial. Didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. But, with commercial, some people say that my work is commercial. And I think that's actually kind of like a positive thing because I've got a product that I can sell. I don't want to be an artist or a creative where I have canvases and canvases in my garage that no one sees, no one buys, no one really enjoys. And then I'm just bitter with the world because no one wants my stuff. So I kind of feel like, I've sort of worked on a style and so a lot of my work has New Zealand references, and it just feels like you've got to do something. If you want to make a living and support your family, you have to sort of commercialize what you do in some way. Does it go onto different products or working with different people that's packaging or, whatever it is? I think if you're going to make it and you want to sell it, you've got to think about what you're actually doing. And being commercial is, it's actually a good thing because, it's either me doing this or trying to get a job as a builder or something else, but I'm no good at anything else. So maybe a house painter, but really it's it's sort of like, I think you have to put your commercial hat on, and I think also as a small business you've got to step up and there's so many other things you have to embrace with the business, like the GST and the tax and all the other stuff. Luckily I've got Hannah, my wife, who works with me, so she looks after a lot of the other stuff that I'm not so good with, the invoicing and the sort of a lot of stuff with social media and just payment and tax and GST. She's really good with that stuff. I think if I was trying to do everything myself, it would just be too overwhelming, because sometimes it's just enough trying to manage the clients and get the work done and then look at the next jobs that are coming in and making sure there's like an even amount of work, because it's not really like that. It's sort of like 5 jobs
all go at once, right?
And then it's like and you got to kind of like, and there's then what's coming up next, so then it's just like a juggle. So I feel like sometimes it's a bit like a hamster in a wheel, just trying to get it done, and you work really intensely with somebody, and then that job finishes, and you feel like you've run a marathon. The next person comes in, I've got a deadline in 3 days or 1 week or 2 weeks, can you do it? Sort of so sometimes it's just, I think the jobs that are actually really enjoyable, the ones that have a reasonable deadline, the budget's good, they respect what you do, they want you to do your thing, and you sort of hear what their problem, and you work a solution for what they're kind of after, and everyone's kind of happy. That's the kind of brief.
I do think as a creative people, and I mean, I'm putting myself in that camp because I have the creative temperament of not liking admin. But I do think with creativity that it is really helpful to have someone to help do some of the other parts, like, and having those partnerships work super well. I mean, I definitely appreciate the fact that I've got my husband doing those things and remembering, like, my biggest thing is remembering to pay bills. Like, it's not that I don't want to pay him, but to me, like, it's just like, it's such an unnecessary job to have to sit here and do it, or invoicing people, like, whereas he's like, I've sorted it out. And I do think that having support as soon as you can afford it, or if you're in a position like you guys where it's a husband-wife team, or being able to do that together really helps you go and do the thing that you're best at too, doesn't it?
I mean, there is some, like, I suppose, some downsides when you talk about work all the time. You leave work, you talk about work, you've got one sort of income, one stream coming in, so you can't, it's not one person who's got a different job that have the regular income. So you've got your you got no holiday pay, you got no sick pay, you got all those things. So that they're things to consider. But I think for what I do, it's great to have that extra support and kind of work as a team on things really.
I have to admit that because we also have our daughter working with us, our youngest daughter, every time a business thing comes up at the table, she rolls her eyes. And her way of coping with it is to go, let's talk about interesting, me.
Yeah, my daughter's like that. Chloe's like that. She's like, hello, like you were talking in the car and she'll be in the back, pick her up after she does her work. And she's like, hello, I am here. Or
I know.
Talk about something else because it's not really, but she's on her phone anyway. But sometimes there's things you've got to talk about that's work related. But going back to that, I think sometimes, quoting for jobs has been quite, pitching and quoting, that takes quite a lot of time. And it's almost like the more time you allocate to doing that, sometimes it's the better chance you've got of actually getting the job. But you're so busy focused on getting the work out that you don't really do that. And I used to always kind of go on the side of like, this is how many hours I think the job's going to take me to do. It's all going to run smoothly. There might be a little bit here and there, back and forth. I might say a round of amendments here, a round of amendments there. But these days, it just seems like there's so much other stuff like correspondence, things going back and forth, phone calls, meetings. So even though that's the amount of time to actually create the work and do it, there's all that other stuff. It could be like another half the time, So it's trying to put that into the quote. And some of you think that sounds like too much, but that's what it's going to take because that's how much time it's going to take.
Yeah, I think one of the things, because I work with a lot of small business owners like you, but we sometimes work with quite large companies, not as big as some of the corporate groups that you work with, but some quite large ones. And one of the things I think is a real challenge when you're working with that type of client is that they have the budget, which is really good. So it's often that side is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But corporates have a culture of meetings and they're on salaries. So they can go, I'll just have another meeting with Greg or Rachel, and hey, you can come over and see me at my office or wherever. And they're not understanding that as we're the creators, or for me it's strategy, as we're those people doing that work, when we get in our car or stop our day with a meeting, it actually disrupts a whole lot of work that we can be doing for the day. And that's the cost,
It's an hour or 2 hours out of your working week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 2 hours of work. They sort of, I think there's other distractions that come into the week as well. So all of a sudden you're cutting down your hours that you can actually work, and then the cost of living is going up, petrol's going up, supplies are going up, and you actually need to be at your computer doing the work, and you don't want to be working in the evenings and weekends.
No.
That you can't. Everyone's done a lot of that, but that's just not sustainable. You start to feel pretty shitty after too much time like that.
I had an interesting conversation with a client the other day because she was asked me to do some work, which is a type of work I only do on a single day. And she hadn't kind of come back to me, and I said, cool, I'll be doing it next Thursday. And she came back and said, what, do you only work one day a week now? And I said, no, but I now have Mondays as my admin day and kind of stuff like that. Fridays is my podcast and writing and all that sort of side day. I have 2 days for strategy, and then I have 1 day for all the other extra work. And that's a Thursday. And I think for me, and it's not always possible, and I do definitely cheat on this, but that has really helped me because if someone wants a meeting, I go, cool, that's this day.
Yes. Yeah. That's really good. Because I know Stephanie, who we were working with before, and then we've spoken to you before about her giving me like a day a week, or just recommending have a day a week doing your artwork, and then that's the day. And then I never could really do it because there was so much client work. It's like, well, the deadline's on Monday, so I better work Friday. And then all of a sudden, you're not structuring your week, and the artwork never actually happens. So I kind of end up like, I know that the artwork can scale up and I can sell more of the art, but I need to have the time to develop it. And if you're just doing it in the evenings, which I was kind of doing, or
right?
2 hours before the the TV's on, and you're trying to do it a little bit, it started to feel a bit like a chore. Like I had to kind of do it because we needed a new range, or we needed some new prints, and then it took a bit of the love out of it. And so I kind of, doing that Friday has actually been, I have really tried to stick to that this year, and I think it really helps just getting things going, and just I need a little bit more time, but I think that 1 day was really good to try and focus on that and push the client work out.
Because I think the other thing, and this is really important for creatives, like it was a huge thing for me to go, okay, Fridays is my day to do podcasts, to write my stuff article. You know, I have a few other bits and pieces that I do. I'm trying to do 2 podcasts a day. So like doing that stuff. But my breakthrough, and everyone's going to know that's my schedule because I've just told everyone, but my thing is this: no one can see your calendar.
Yeah.
Like, no one knows what you're working on the day that you're not available. You're the only one. So if you say to someone, sorry, I can't meet you on Friday, I'm fully booked out, they don't know that you're booked out for your own business. I mean, they might now, but even if they do, we should be working on our business, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's and I like you surf, right?
I do, yes.
If you had booked a surf thing and something else little came up, like a meeting, would you change your surf time, or would you?
Depends what meeting it was, really. It always seems like
if it was, I'll give you $1 million, well, then you're going to change it.
It depends. If it's something local and it's really, really good, I try not to. But Rachel, my dog's at the window trying to get out, scratching. I'm just going to let her out. So
that's totally fine.
Yeah. I'll let you into a little secret. Before, when she was sort of trying to get out the door here, I go to my coffee cup and I put it down here, and she was like licking the coffee, the milk around the top of it, just to keep it quiet.
Yeah, I was like, I'll let her have the caffeine, but now she's completely like, I need to get out.
She's doing laps around the garden like a dog in Something About Mary.
I kind of want to keep that in now, but I think it would be wrong.
But no, everything you're saying is really, really true and really good. And I think you recommended, blocking in some time for it, because we sort of said maybe, how much can you do in one day on the art? So maybe it is like kind of like putting in like 3 days into the calendar. I think that's something that I'm going to really try and do, is like structure my calendar better and try and book in the time to when the artwork comes in, and also social media, like talking about how are we going to do the social media and what we're going to do, as opposed to on the fly, 10 to 5, well, we haven't done one yet, or what should we do, or should we take a picture of this? And there's never really been much structure with the social media sort of posts, but I think that's something we kind of need to get organized with.
I do think that all of this is about adding new habits in a lot of the time, and I also think, and I don't know if this is true with creative stuff, but do you think because you've been in that commercial space and that's where you've done it, do you think that there's like this little underneath thing of going, it's too, because you love the art yourself, creating the art, does it feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I'm really allowed to do this because it feels a bit self-indulgent?
Yep, totally. And I should be doing client work, because client work makes the money, and you do the client work, and then at the end of the week you can put an invoice in, or you get paid on the 20th. But when you do the actual artwork, you don't get any money for that. So if you do 3 or 4 days of it, you've got no money coming in, so it's hard to pay the mortgage. So the reality is that you try and squeeze it in different times, or if everyone's busy at home, you have like a half day on a Saturday. But you do, there was that feeling. But I think when I spoke to Stephanie, she's like, well, there's only so many hours you can do doing your commercial work, but just keep building on your art stuff, and you could double it or triple it. And then, so that's where I kind of thought, actually, I shouldn't feel bad about it. It's still making money. I'm not like doing something else. I'm actually, it still is work, even though it doesn't really feel like work. It is work, and it is going to benefit the business and things. So
at least you make money from it. Last year I took my 2 weeks off to write my book, and then a day a week for 4 months to write my book. I've paid $6,000 to a person who helps me with the coaching and helped me through the self-publishing stage. I've just paid $2,500 to get 250 copies sold. Who knows if I'm going to get those sold, and I've paid someone to help me with publicity. So I'm now down all that time, plus probably around 10 grand. For something that really is, for me, just something that I do believe in it and I love it, but it was that I have to do this for me. How indulgent, and it took time out of our business for me to do that. So at least yours is making money. Like, you are well ahead of me on this.
But no, I think there's something about doing a book. It's something, if you always wanted to do a book, you've got a book, and you don't know where that's going to, people will pick it up for years to come, and they're going to enjoy it. And it is, it's one of those things. I was asked to do a children's book. But it was like years ago. It was when my daughter was at school. Her school teacher, her husband had a publishing company, and they wanted me to do a children's book. So I did this children's book, and I was working at my full-time job at the time, and I ended up doing like I was working so once the kids had gone to bed and I had dinner, so I started at 8 and I went from 8 to probably about 1 each day, and then I'd wake up and I'd go to work the next day. But then often one of the kids would wake up in the night, so I'd be up in the night, and then sometimes I'd be in my computer and think, I'll just go straight through. Why don't I just go straight through and not actually like go to sleep at all? And I did that for like 3 months, and my friend said I was like a zombie at work, and I used to always go to that 2-3 o'clock chocolate bar at the local dairy just to get me through, and that became quite a bad habit. But anyway, so I managed to do it, and it was really good, and I was really happy with it. I pencil sketched everything, did everything on the computer. I put these textures in, and I was quite proud of the book. And I hadn't really done a children's book, but then with the deal, it was like the author gets 5%, the illustrator gets 5%, then there's 40% for the publisher, and the rest goes to the retailer. And then it's been sold all over the world. It won like a book award, and I think the royalties were like, I got like $1,500 or something, and that was, I had some money up front, and I'm still not actually really making anything from it, even though it's sold everywhere. And I sort of felt like the amount of time I worked out 3 months on that, or like really, it's sort of it just didn't really make money back. No. But Leo loved it, and we drew from the book, and I went to the school and we did like book week, and I did some drawing in the assembly, and the kids all really loved it, and some people saw it in England, and those things were really nice. But I did feel like there was so much time, there was so much work to do. Was it really worth it? And I've ticked it off. But your book will be always be read, and I'll have to go get myself a copy now.
Oh, you'll be getting a copy, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. A question around, I did have a question for you around, I just want to talk about this because I think it's really important. So you have your fine art side, which is like your beautiful kind of one-offs originals, which you're trying to develop, but you also have this accessible art. I call it accessible art. Yeah, basically, they're prints, and it's designed that a lot of people will own those prints. It makes it cheaper for them to have a bit of New Zealand art in their homes or in their offices. Like, for you, like how do you feel about that? I mean, because you've got that commercial side, it might sit easier, but does it feel weird to you sometimes?
I don't think it feels really weird for me, but just to sort of correct you, I haven't done that many original one-off pieces. I've sort of dabbled with a bit of painting and things, but for different exhibitions, like group exhibitions. But even though I came from painting years ago, it's sort of like I haven't really sort of worked out, if I want to do an original piece, what should I do? What paint should I use? What brushes do I use? What should I paint on wood? Do I paint on canvas?
Yeah.
Like what size should it be?
That's quite a lot of questions.
Yeah, and you're probably like me, like a lot of people. Where's the time? You had your podcast, like, so I really need the time to actually go, I'm going to just develop this and just play around with it, and allow myself to play around with it to try and work out a solution, and then so that's almost. I've had a little go in evenings and things, but. I don't think I've really kind of sussed it yet, but I do have my screen prints, which are limited edition prints. So I keep the edition quite low, like 20 or 50, and they're signed and they're dated. They're slightly bigger, and they do feel a lot more special, like 2 to 3 color screen prints. Then I've got the open edition prints, which are like the next, so they're more sort of affordable, and prints like A4 print for like $49 and things. So. And they are signed, but I've got my own printer, so I print sort of in-house and print to order. So that's my dog again. Sophie should be quiet.
I can come. We've had a baby screaming in my podcast before. We're good with the dog.
She's quite a needy kind of dog, but very cute, but quite barky. But so I have got those sort of like different. But I think that's quite good. And I think what I need to do is go. These are the open edition prints in the different sizes, say 4A, 3A, 2A, 1, and then you've got the limited edition screen prints. But I think I need that more screen prints, and then that next tier of the original piece. Like, is there one piece that you do that's the key piece that's a higher price point, and then there's like some prints from that maybe are just like a part of that, and then you have like a little smaller crop, which is like a cheaper one. So I think having affordable art is really good, but I think I do need to have some of those bigger pieces in the range that are sort of a bit more expensive and a bit more special. So that's definitely something on the cards, and I've kind of been thinking about it for quite a while, but it's just I haven't quite nailed it just yet.
I'm looking around my office, and I think I've got there's like 4 prints in here already. And I do think that and they're varying from like a bit more exclusive to less ones.
Yeah.
I do think one of the most beautiful things about the sage, and one of the things I said in the intro, which you haven't heard, was, you know, when my mum was a potter, and you know, when she's very creative and she's in her 70s now, and I look at it and go, I wonder what her life would have been like if she was born like 40 years later, because it is possible now to be an artist and have this thing, because we've become a people who are used to understanding and seeing the beauty of other people's art in our houses. We have prints, we have pieces of pottery and stuff. Whereas before, it was always on the fringe. It was considered a bit hippie-ish to be an artist.
Yes. Yeah, I always hated that sort of idea of, like, I had a boss who used to come over and say, oh, you guys put away your crayons now, and we talk about the arty-farty kind of group, and he'd say that, and people at school, and just not being taken seriously, like, thing is like a craft, it's a part-time thing, it's sort of a hobby, but you know, it's not. But I did go to a gallery in Ponsonby a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at some of their artwork, the Lynn Gallery, and you know, amazing, like a lot of them were probably considered like street artists, but just the you know, the richness in some of those prints, and the sort of the skill, and then the way they presented with the beautiful frames, and they had like reflective free glass, so almost like the paper was almost like in front of the glass, floating. And I just thought, you know, these pieces might be like $3 grand or $5 grand or $8 grand, but it actually feels like it's totally worth it because it's presented so well and so beautifully. It's like, that is an amazing piece of art, and I just thought, you know, it totally feels like it's worth that price because it does look so beautiful and so unique. And so I think there's definitely something in that to create those pieces, and for people who actually do want something that's like something larger on their wall that's a bit more special and not everyone's got.
And I want to say to that, because, and you might have a different point of view, but for me, when I go to choose art, I choose something that evokes quite a strong emotional attachment, because I feel like I've got a print on my wall here, and I got it because my parents actually got it for me, but I asked them for it. I got it because every time I saw it, it made me feel this happiness. And so, like, if I'm having a bad day in the office or whatever, and I just glance up and look at that print, I just feel automatically better. And that's the gift, right?
Yes.
And so I don't care really if someone else doesn't think it's fashionable or doesn't think it's real art or whatever. Your art is still a very intensely personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we had someone come into the gallery the other day, and she goes, I've only got a couple of minutes, and looking around, I love all your stuff, and it just makes me smile. And I thought that's actually just a really nice compliment. You know, like, I just thought it just sort of seems to provoke some, you know, just like not sort of warm fuzzies sometimes. I love all the nostalgic kind of work, you know, and imagery from the childhood memories of the beach and the batch and time spent with family, or the old bike you used to have, or all that kind of stuff. It just kind of, I love old photographs, and I just sort of, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, cool stuff coming up, I'm sure, but I can't help but look back a bit, look at all that.
No, I love it. Well, we talked before the podcast, you know, about the Stranger Things effect, right? And that nostalgia thing. I do think that there is this cry with all the other stuff that has, when we look back to our childhood, like back then, what we're doing is we're saying, remember that time where there was connection? Like, I heard this really cool thing the other day, which was nostalgia is memories without anxiety.
Right. Yeah.
And so when you see like the surfboard near the beach, or you see a caravan, or you see all those kind of Kiwiana type beachy things, you forget the fact that you didn't get good sleep because you got super sunburnt, and because your parents are too cheap to put you in a nice, this is my own childhood, you know, in Chatter's, you just spent 3 days in the bloody tent because you can't leave because there's
Dad's snoring.
You forget Dad's snoring, the fact that they didn't give you the warm sleeping bag because you know, they gave it to the little brother. Like, you forget all that stuff, and you go, oh yeah, that was the life.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I was kind of like not really into, like, I love Stranger Things, I love all that stuff. Yeah. But really, I'm not really into like making sort of dark arts or you know, like edgy stuff. I'm kind of.
There's no underside, like the other side for you. Like, there's no other.
No, I mean, I do like some, you know, sort of like you know, gangster movies and things like that. And but yeah, I kind of feel like there's so much going on in the world. I quite like just things that mean a lot to me. And my parents used to do trips. They couldn't really afford trips overseas, so we used to have a pop-up camper we used to take around. It was like
same.
And it was like go and stay at different places. So we went to Aripara, up to Shipwreck Bay. We go right down to like New Plymouth and different places. And and there was those childhood memories. And certainly probably weren't the, like you don't remember some of those things you said about, but you do remember the places and the surf or the ice cream you got there, or jumping off the wharf and all that. And sort of that more sort of simple kind of life. And so that's why I try to sort of capture in my work. Millie's really bugging me, actually.
It's okay. Just grab her and we'll come back.
Yeah, come on. She's barking to go out, now barking to come in.
Yeah, and you know what? She'll probably do the whole thing again in a few moments.
Oh, yeah. I had to concentrate with the constant like scratching all the barking, but I'm all good now. She's gone, so
it is totally fine. I do totally know the feeling, because seriously, having 3 dogs, it's a miracle one of them hasn't also barked during this time. This has been such a great conversation, Greg, and I've really enjoyed it. Are you, like, if people want to find out about you, so there's 2 things that people could talk to you about. They could come into your website, right, and buy some of your art.
Yeah,
if they want to,
yes. Yeah.
And then also collaborations, like that would be amazing. The ones that give you, I mean, you'd love any good commercial works, anything, but those ones where you get to be Greg Straight with your genius collaborating with a brand is like the A++, right?
It is, and it's not sometimes like, there's always the client always wants something and you've got what you do, so there is always that sort of place to meet in the middle. But something like McDonald's, I did some work for McDonald's, a couple of summer campaigns, and that was quite amazing. I'm sure I got a little bit of flack about some of working with McDonald's, like, and being so commercial, but they were so good to work with. They it was one change. I did the artwork. I listened to what they wanted, gave it to them, and it was, they just rolled it out. And so it's like, there's sometimes there's just that, it always is what the client kind of wants, but sometimes when the client's too strong with it and you just have to mold. But at the end of the day, you do have to also make some money and pay the bills. So
yeah.
You can't be too picky. You can't be too picky with a lot of stuff.
No, you can't. So if they want to find you on Instagram, it's Greg Straight Art. Is that right? It
is. Yes.
I've put a link to that in the show notes. And then what's your website for people checking out your art?
It's just Greg Straight Shop, and the portfolio of commercial work is just gregstraight.com. And then we've also got the gallery at 10 Birkdale Road.
Oh, yes, that's right. So you can come and see you in person in Auckland, and it's your studio, you have a gallery at the front, and then you actually work in the back. Is that right?
Yes. And we've got a couple of hot desks that a couple of friends who are designers work in there. So I can talk to people and just ask them what they think about things. And but there's a lot of stuff to do. So you've got commercial work, artwork, gallery, dog, kids.
Yeah. I can see why the dog doesn't come into the office.
That's the reason there's not much surfing going on at the moment.
I can imagine.
Too much to do.
Yeah, no, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm excited to see what happens in the future.
Yes, thank you very much, and love your work, and thanks for everything.
Thank you. I always come away from having a conversation with Greg in a super good mood, and I think it's because he gives me hope and reminds me that my creative side is really worth investing in. And even though he has struggled in the past himself of getting that balance right, it's a real reminder that for those of us who have a creative drive, a need to create, whether it's in art, it's in design, it's in writing, whatever it is, in dance, wearing a road cone costume, whatever it is, that we do need to make sure that we have room for that in our lives. And that it's okay to think commercially about your gift and make it part of your life, your business life. For those of you that are creative and feel like that part of you is not engaged and not growing, I really encourage you to start working out a way to prioritize finding a space for that. For me, one of the things that's helped is to use that in my marketing. To wear costumes and be silly and create has helped me be liberated. And from that start to help me make space in my whole life to do things like write my book. It's a cost, but it's a worthwhile cost. And I really encourage, if you've got something that you want to create, if you've got that creative drive inside you, feed it,
Stop hiding it and see what happens. If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.